What I want to do is, first, let's actually kind of introduce the distinguished panel. We'll introduce ourselves and we'll get going. I know that everybody wants to go to drinks, those kinds of things, so let me get started. So my name is Sree. I'm part of Gartner. We are part of a technology. We do a lot of technology research and one of the leaders in technology research. And I cover some of the technologies like IoT, edge computing, and artificial intelligence. That's my introduction, and I'm moderating this panel. And I'll let my panel introduce themselves.
So, good morning, good afternoon. Sorry, my name is Phillippe Cases. I am the CEO of ReadWrite Labs. ReadWrite Labs is an industry catalyst for the Internet of Things. We help companies at each step of the way by providing education, market intelligence, and networking opportunities.
Hi, I'm Piyush Modi. I do business development at NVIDIA. Prior to joining NVIDIA, I was running engineering for a startup in deep learning space. And before that, 4 years with GE Research Lab, envisioning the digital transformation.
Hi guys, my name is Vish Pai. I lead the product for Samsung ReadWrite end-to-end IoT platform. And my role is to look at the end-to-end platform from the software which goes on modules to the cloud services and the applications. Before that, I've been in a startup, which was again IoT platform, and glad to be here.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys. So, a couple of key things that I want to talk about before we get started. I told the panel this is a 4:30 panel, so I said they need to be entertaining you guys. So that's number one. They said that they're going to actually kind of keep it entertaining and give you some new insights. Second, we want to have some time for you guys to ask questions. So we'll actually open up the questions maybe 20 minutes past. So keep your questions up, and we're happy to engage with you. So I want to just get started with the panel. Before we get started, one key question: how many people are from startups? Okay, quite a few. So they're going to tailor their messages for you guys. How many people are from large companies, big companies? Okay. How many people are the buyers and the implementers of IoT solutions? Okay. So there are a few here. So I'm sure that we'll actually kind of keep the messages directed to the audience here. So let's get started. We have two buzzwords, the artificial intelligence and the IoT in one tagline. So let's actually kind of start with the key question that we have for this panel, which is AI the missing link in the IoT value chain? And if that is the case, why? And if that is not the case, why not? Let's start with Phillippe.
Yes, so if you think about IoT, right, at its basis, it's about connecting things to the internet. And connecting things to the internet, has been around for a while. Now, what's happening now is the scale, right? We're talking about connecting 50 billion things in the next 10 years. And it's also the amount of data that is going to be collected by those things, right? So if you think about what it means an infrastructure that is going to be 10x, 100x infrastructure that we have available right now. And so innovation and missing links are everywhere. We need better device, we need better network, right? So 5G is not there yet, and we're working with what we have right now. We need a cloud, we need innovation around database like blockchain, and so we need more privacy, more security, and so we are going to need also more with more data. We are going to need more tools to analyze, and that's where AI comes in, right? So AI is one of the missing link. It's probably one that is going to provide a lot of ROI moving forward, but it's only one link.
Hi. So if you listen to the panelists, right, what IoT comes across as a very needy child, right? And we've been kind of waiting for those outcomes that we all started this journey with. There's billions of dollars invested, and it's all about outcomes, and those outcomes are still real. I mean, all the economists have said, especially in the sector I work in, industrial sector, where things get measured in 1% downtime or in millions and billions of dollars, right? Whether it's oil, gas, or aircraft engine or locomotive, whenever this expensive thing go down, there is impact. A lot of our focus, as rightfully said, has been around connecting stuff, getting data. And if you look on the other side, yeah, we've done well actually connecting, but we're sitting on data, only probably 1% of it gets used. You take an industry like oil and gas, they will tell you they're sitting buried under oceans of data and waiting for those outcomes. So what is the crux of this is, it's all about getting to the insights. And this is where I feel not sure about missing link. There are several missing links, but in terms of delivering outcome, I think it's a perfect timing. A lot of things are coming together. Lots of data we have, lots of new algorithms, new techniques like AI and deep learning, where you're able to really take away the burden that feature engineers had, people had to do, spending, cleaning the data, making insight, where is the insight, doing things one project at a time. Get that burden over to deep learning like algorithms which finds these insights, and it takes a lot of compute, and good thing is the compute is here as well. So we'll talk more about it and how a lot of customers that I work with are seeing kind of how the outcome is going to get unleashed.
So if you think about it, I think AI and IoT are a continuum. And if I say this, basically the question doesn't make sense anymore. It's not the missing link. And here's why. If you ask what was the promise of IoT, the promise of IoT was not connecting things. The promise was IoT was to improve business outcomes from the start. We started with cloud computing, we started with connectivity, but that was just the first step. And this was around 5 to 8 years ago where people started connecting devices and connecting things. And the hype, if you really look at it, was because of one of the key events, the triggers, was Google acquiring Nest. And that triggered that trend of everyone wanted to jump on the ship. Oh, I want to connect my devices. Why? Oh, because it's important to connect and let's connect it. And this was around 5 to 8 years ago. But last 2-3 years, the companies, enterprises who are shipping these devices started asking, oh, why am I connecting these devices? And the answer was to improve their outcomes, be it in the consumer space, be it in the commercial building space, or the industrial, especially the industrial cases. So is AI the missing link? I think AI is the thing which will answer the original question which IoT actually was popular, which is improve the business outcomes.
Awesome. No, I think this is great. So I want to kind of go back to the value chain. There is IoT devices that are getting a lot of data on the edge. And we are talking about artificial intelligence which are getting to the insights. There is so many things that need to come together in terms of getting the data from the edge to getting to the insights. And I know that a lot of, the last mile is one of the difficult things, getting to a lot of the data, and there is also challenges as to the security, what is the type of data that you need to collect, those kinds of things. Can you maybe get started, Vish, as it relates to the data, what we call a digital mesh, how you are collecting data, what are some of the challenges that you face getting the data, so much of voluminous data, and getting to a point where you are getting the insights?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the reason it's great is because not all data is equal. And by that, what I mean is, if you really sub-market or look at the verticals in IoT, the broad categories are consumer space, the commercial building, industrial, and there are others like health and smart city, et cetera, But each of them, the data is different in terms of format, in terms of value it brings to the table. For example, in the consumer space, pretty much the data is given for free for these big mega companies, and they use it to give subsidized devices or experiences, because for the end consumer, the convenience is the number one most important thing. The data is valuable, less valuable for them. Moving on to more of commercial, and it's more of a spectrum. So if you move towards industrial, the data becomes more and more important for the enterprise itself. And that's where there is opportunity for startups to actually address that. How do I get bring the value back to these enterprises, maybe through a specialized service for answering that use case. And I'll give some examples specifically what I mean by that, and evolve that data to help more and more these enterprises. So let's categorize a little bit detail on what are we talking about the data challenges, which is the original question. First is the security. It has to be secure, and that's a given for any vertical. There's no playing in the field for a startup or a big company if you're not secure. The second is privacy. And this becomes very important, be it consumer or industrial. And for industrial, it's a little more contained because it's your intranet or whatever that space you're operating in. And for a startup, there are, again, since the audience is mostly startup, I'm going to give two key takeaways. One thing is data is moving from the cloud to the edge. And it's not just in the cloud, as we have seen in even previous sessions. And the second key takeaway is platforms are good, but they're getting commoditized. So you need to address a specific use case and actually gather data and leverage that for a specific use case for you to sell to a big enterprise or become a good buy target for a big enterprise.
Yeah, so I'll try to kind of double click on this. So we kind of agreed AI definitely is going to add value to IoT value chain. So let's look at this data that we call, and again, I'll bring it home to industrial sector. We see a lot of rotatory machineries. They're sitting there, most of them generate data, sensor data, they get stored in historian, but if you look inside, there's lots of variability. Two pumps will not give you the same data. They work at different frequencies depending upon the mode. A lot of times these sensors are noisy. You get corruption as they age, the wear and tear conditions, the way it gets operated in different modes, and they interact with each other in a way that a lot of, in the approach we've taken to date has been, hey, let's build a large data science team. Let's use rule-based techniques, threshold-based techniques. And what happens is you do see outcome at some level, but it just doesn't scale. So these are the challenges we face when it comes to kind of harnessing the value out of this. So again, I would say go back to the techniques like deep learning, which are learning. There are new techniques have emerged around how to do unsupervised learning, how to move away from going into feature engineering, delivering outcome one problem at a time, to let algorithm figure out these features, and then have human spend more time in the decision support. And it made an excellent point where a decision needs to be made where data is. So just investing in transporting all the data to the cloud and then say somebody will come clean it and one day I'll have PhDs working team by team and delivering one outcome at a time is probably not the scalable solution. So there are definitely better ways, smarter ways to get around some of the challenges that data present in IoT.
Yeah, and to build on both points, which both are great points. I think it all comes back to the notion of ROI, and so ROI, especially for an industrial internet solution, is going to be the key that is going to drive adoption if you're a startup, right? And so knowing where the data is going to be processed is going to be important, and it's based on the cost of the different costs you have within your application at the network level, at the cloud level, and then at the device level. And so I think you need to think about those things. You need to think about where the data needs to be located. You need to understand, as Piyush said, which data you need to provide to your team in order to be able to improve the system overall. And so you need to architect the solution better and have that architecture be an architecture for the future, not just for now.
No, one thing that I wanted to actually add with respect to the artificial intelligence, a lot of what the panel is talking about is the technology is available. There are a lot of opportunities. From Gartner, when we survey a lot of the end customers, one of the big challenges that they have is they don't have people who can understand deep learning and machine learning. They get the data, they don't know what to do with it. So my question back to the panel is, yes, there is technology. Yes, there is GPU chips and there is security. All of these, the vendors are working towards it. What can startups do in getting to the outcomes? Where are we seeing these outcomes becoming a reality, given that there are at least few challenges, one of which is somebody will say, you say that there is a TCO or an ROI for this, and somebody will have to implement it, and then they have to actually make those decisions to see it. So there are a lot of things that need to come together to get to the outcomes. In my mind, it's a lot more than technology, it's about people. So I want to again go back to the panel, and maybe Piyush, I'll actually start with you, is where are you seeing these outcomes? Where do you see in the industrial sector people willing to implement these solutions? They're actually getting confidence that all their investments are, to your point, after 3 years, they are able to get some ROI out of the IoT implementations.
Yep. So it looks like two-part question, where and how, right? And it may take a little longer. So where part, right, very simple. I mean, I would say two areas, two sets of use cases, especially if you focused on industrial where there's a lot of outcome as we were talking about. Inspection. Anything that you can see, human eye can see, and you have laborious operations, machine learning, deep learning techniques are ready and now delivering. So going from factories to warehouse to the field, whether it's an object on the size of microns on a wafer mask, to a circuit boards getting made and missing parts, or in a very inhuman environment where humans are sitting and looking at food that's getting packaged, to things like in oil and gas, where there's such a large estate to cover and very few people trying to look at it, and a lot of times they don't know what's the condition of the assets before it burns out or it stops production. So these are all the areas where and one point I want to make to that visual side of is, it's not just about the asset as we know it that we want to connect. It's like there are surrogate assets coming on, like things like drones, robots. These are the new Internet of Things which are going to deliver some of these superpowers. So we are seeing across most of the industrial sectors, this is delivering value. Second aspect of the use case is predictive maintenance. So as I said before, downtimes are very costly. They get measured in millions and billions, whether it's an aircraft engine getting overhauled in a shop, or if it's an oil and gas plant, pump is broken, you're losing 3,000 barrels a day of oil. Normally, the industry runs on 22 downtimes, 22 days of downtime a day. So there are outcomes to be had. Good thing about, as I said, all the challenges of this data as it presents itself can be addressed. There are techniques all the way going down to for startups, GitHub level, where you can download the code and get running tomorrow, where you can predict using techniques called autoencoders and remove those false alarms and detect those anomalies that present itself ahead of time, not when it's likely to happen. So these techniques exist now. So what can a startup do? I would say very simply, three things. First thing, definitely get educated on AI. There are lots of good resources. NVIDIA Deep Learning Institute is one such resource. There is Coursera, there is Stanford, for example, all the great lectures and innovations come out, it's all out there in the video library. So there are multiple ways to get to it. Second thing, choose a framework of your choice in a language of your choice that you like. And you can download these software tools and frameworks, again, from NVIDIA, where we have something called NGC. Whole purpose in life of that is there are hundreds of people benchmarking, creating these frameworks and pruning it out. These are all open source frameworks that we optimize to run better on GPU, for example. So it's all available out there using modern DevOps. And third thing is pick your POC. Where do you want to bring that first outcome, whether in inspection, predictive maintenance, and of course there is a third area of automation where a lot of reinforcement learning algorithms, again, available, same mechanism that you can put to use for training your robots to automate the operations.
So just to add to that, I think it starts with the use case, right? So you need to understand the use case you're going after, and based on that use case, you need to pick the right AI. that is going to get to where you need to be. So once you have those two things, then you can decide which framework you're going to use and which people you need. But the first thing is to really start thinking about what is the use case and what type of technology do you need in order to fix that use case.
Yeah, I want to quickly summarize on what you are looking for each use case, and which is if you're offering a solution or helping consumers, and be it end consumers or industrial developers or consumers, you need to look at 4 pieces and cover all of it, which is the descriptive part of analytics, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. Because what I've seen and what consumers face is a challenge. You do descriptive and you stop, or you do diagnostic and you stop. But what actually consumers need, just think of yourself in a place. If you have a thermostat which is telling you, oh, it's going to predict that, hey, the temperature is going to up outside or inside house. What if it provides you options like, hey, turn the heater up, down, whatever that use case is. So when you build a solution, offer all the 4 pieces, which is from descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive, the most important one. And same goes with the industrial use cases, where if you offer a solution and you see more and more of these, not just telling what is happening with a factory robot or a sensor, but also offering the solutions so that, because that's a learning algorithm, you can actually give many options so that it can be faster and more helpful to your customers.
Awesome. So I have one last question. Whoever have questions, you can actually kind of line up at the 2 mics there, and there is a mic going around. The one question that I have is, you guys were part of startups. You guys were, in your previous life, were startups. And I'm sure that you are a startup, Phillippe. So now, if looking at all the startups, what are a couple of ideas that you can actually kind of give them as it relates to building their own companies or partnering with companies like you? What are some of the things, a couple of things that you can tell them on how to make money with IoT?
So very quickly, right? I mean, this is not an easy thing to figure out, right? I mean, if we knew how to do that repetitively, we would be very rich and make a lot of money, right? So one thing though is that I feel that there has not been a better time to actually start your own company because the level of innovation that is happening everywhere is just tremendous. So the first thing I would want to tell you is there is a lot of hope. I mean, there is a lot of hope everywhere, and there is a lot of problem to crack, and there is a lot of technologies being developed right now for that. And we can go over at each step of the way between smart device, a smart network, smart cloud, smart data, the applications, and even the industries that are going to be disruptive. We were talking about HealthTech. Right now we're building vegetables on walls. We are building new type of burger. And all of this is being done because IoT is there and is sustaining kind of the infrastructure of those companies. So there is a lot of innovation everywhere. There is a lot of opportunities to disrupt industries. So there is a lot of opportunity to make money.
So it's a very broad question, and everybody in the startup definitely have your own dreams. So, and anybody who want to be entrepreneur. So there's no one answer, but I would offer a very good resource. We run something called Inception program at NVIDIA. There are about 2,000 startups in the program. They are innovating from edge to cloud. Please check it out. You will find your use case for sure. And number one, and it also comes with its own benefits. Second thing, when you pick a problem, adopt the right tools and right way to do this. Many people have tried to solve the same problems in IoT many years and yet to yield results. So now is the time where, as we say, data, compute, and algorithms all coming together. And my preference would be that look at deep learning very closely for the problem set, AI problem set you're trying to solve, whether it's a visual imaging data or a time series data, or if it's NLP or speech or sound or any of these modalities around which you're trying to deliver some AI-led outcome. For example, right, right tools. So I would try to kind of shamelessly say a few things about GPUs here. So when you build these models, you're going to need to do training and inferencing. On the most complex network, it's proven you get 100x throughput when you use GPU for training. On a most complex problem on inferencing at scale, because when you build this model, you want people to use it, that's when somebody gets paid. And you get 60x performance improvement. So these are all very well documented white papers that you may want to look at closely as you pick. And third thing is, depending upon your choice, whether you're building at the edge intelligence or in the cloud, there is a way to access this resource, whether it's on your edge gateway, whether if it is for the, say, aggregation layer, or whether it is in your private cloud, or if it is you want to just consume it from public CSP cloud like Amazon or Google or somebody, or Microsoft for that matter. It's available everywhere. So that will be kind of, but do look at some of the resources I mentioned, and definitely will be ready to help you if you have questions.
The couple of things startups can focus on today, with a lot of these platforms getting commoditized, especially on the consumer side. The key platforms which are emerging are Samsung, with all the devices, appliances. You have Google Home, the Alexa from Amazon. On the industrial side, you kind of see Azure, GE, and Oracle kind of coming up. But there is a lot of opportunities for startups to partner with companies like Samsung if you have solved a specific use case, which is have the complete solution for a use case, you own that area, and you want to then get acquired probably, or grow in that business. And the second one is own a key technology. Maybe it is in vision or whatever you are good at in terms of your core IP. So those are two areas.
So Sree, very quickly on this topic, I think it's a great topic. Most companies, when they start, want to build everything all at once, and it's not going to be possible in the new world of IoT. The cost of just the platform itself, maintaining a platform itself, is in the millions of dollars. So partnering with companies like Comcast, integrating infrastructure like what NVIDIA is providing is key if you want to be successful in the new world.
Awesome. I'll open up for questions. Any questions?
Yeah, IoT is all about automation at the end of the day. And automation means your return on your investments. So between consumer, government, industrial, if you were to start up a company, you three, one of you, where would you get your best return on your investment? I can go from sensors to platforms to security to applications to the verticals, whichever you want to choose.
Yeah, I can take this. So basically, let me first take government. You can go for government if you have that oxygen tank, as Jeff Bezos puts it, which is you have the time to actually sustain and actually win those deals, which I wouldn't start on my own. The other two are consumer and industrial. And for that, the kind of mentality you need in terms of your business model and in terms of technology and the time to market are different, totally different, which is on the consumer side, can you provide a better experience and convenience for the end user? If yes, then that's a great market. But it's very risky with all these giants investing heavily on that area. So that leaves with industrial area where the ROI is clean, which is if you go to a big enterprise and say, hey, I give you this technology, it will save you X percentage or X dollar amount, then they'll buy it. Because for them, ROI is key, easy to justify to their stakeholders and board. So that gives you the answer what's the best, according to me.
Yeah, I would say AI is a technology that applies to almost all the sectors, right? And there are outcomes getting delivered at NVIDIA. We pay attention to all the sectors. I look at industrial, but we have my peers looking at retail, consumer, you name it. And healthcare is one of the big one. Oil and gas is a big one. So there are money to be made in all of them, I would say. What you want to do is, though, learn from consumer, because that's where a lot of investments have gone, a lot of good work has come out of it. But these techniques are very generic, the way they are manifesting. So, and the tools are also very generic. And so leverage them. And personally, because I'm so close to industrial, I would agree with my panelists as well, that that's a good place to be. And because these outcomes are measurable in kind of very quickly. It may be difficult to get to the data sometimes, but once you have the access to data, those outcomes are very real and measurable. And you can, getting things over down to the field is a little easier.
So I'm going to disagree with my colleague. I think where the opportunities are more at the industry level. You can see now. I was mentioning AgTech. I'm mentioning transportation. There are a lot of opportunities to disrupt entire industries with the advent of AI and IoT. And so if you can find a part of an industry that is not completely optimized, or that is going to benefit from having all those things being connected, like last mile delivery, for instance. You have tens of billions that are being invested, from autonomous car to drones to stuff like DoorDash, which is like would be the equivalent of curation, right? So we're doing this with human instead of doing this with machine, and VCs are investing in those industries because you can save hundreds of billions of dollars in an industry. So if you can find those type of areas where there is a lot of opportunities of saving within an industry, that's when the next Facebook, in my mind, is going to be, or the next Uber is going to be created.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Ruchir at Nebula Technologies. We're actually looking at the industrial market, so good to see that mentioned. My question was, so AI is about automation, as somebody mentioned, and we've seen a lot of noise around blockchain and smart contracts. Do you see, in fact, the reason I ask is Samsung, I saw, has some partnership with IOTA, and so can you share some perspective on any real-world use cases or upcoming use cases that you see?
Yeah, so in fact, my colleague is on the board of IOTA. So basically what we see is blockchain for IoT in general. It's a little too early, but from a Samsung perspective, we are investing in this new technology to actually learn and be ahead of the curve. With that being said, the specific use cases for blockchain, at least broadly, what I see is on the trust you can develop from the edge for the data. And with blockchain, I believe you can solve many of those challenges, especially in some of the sectors which Phillippe mentioned before, which is transportation. And with that, you can actually establish a trust across the network, because in transportation, you're not the only entity involved in the, let's say, transporting a deal. You have many enterprises. So blockchain can help them in those kind of use cases.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much for your time. Please join me in giving a round of applause for the panel.